Andy was an aspiring musician, obsessed with the works of a legendary composer named Victor Crowley. Crowley's music was dark and haunting, yet strangely beautiful, with melodies that seemed to pierce the very soul. Rumors swirled around the enigmatic composer, with some believing that his incredible talent was the result of a deal with the devil. One day, Andy stumbled upon an online forum dedicated to Victor Crowley's work. As he scrolled through the posts, he found a message from a user named Shadow Maestro, who claimed to have a never-before-released composition by Crowley. Intrigued and excited, Andy messaged the user, and to his surprise, received an invitation to meet and discuss the piece. The meeting was set to take place at an abandoned concert hall on the outskirts of town, a place once frequented by Crowley himself. Andy couldn't believe his luck. Not only was he about to hear a lost masterpiece, but he would experience it in the very location where his idol had once performed. As Andy approached the decaying concert hall, he felt a chill run down his spine. The once grand building was now a shadow of its former self, with shattered windows and crumbling walls. Ignoring his growing unease, he entered the dark, musty hall and called out for Shadow Maestro. A mysterious figure emerged from the shadows, wearing a tattered cloak and a bone-white mask. Andy's heart raced as the figure approached, revealing an ancient, weathered music sheet. The figure handed it over to Andy and whispered, "Play it, and you shall meet your idol." Overwhelmed with curiosity and anticipation, Andy set up his instrument on the dusty stage and began to play the piece. The music was unlike anything he had ever heard, mesmerizing, complex, and otherworldly. As the final notes echoed through the hall, a cold wind swept through the room and the air became thick with darkness. Suddenly, a specter materialized before Andy, taking the form of the legendary Victor Crowley. Andy's heart pounded in his chest as he gazed upon his idol. But Crowley's eyes were empty and soulless, and his mouth twisted into a sinister grin. He spoke in a voice that seemed to emanate from the depths of the abyss. "I've heard sounds in the afterlife. Melodies unlike anything in the living world. I've been writing, Andy, in my own way. Would you like to help me share these compositions with the world?" Awed by the presence of his idol and the prospect of unveiling unseen music, Andy found himself nodding, uttering a shaky yes. Little did he realize the weight of his assent. With a sinister smile, Victor Crowley's spirit lunged into Andy, taking control of his body. Andy felt a chill sweep through him as his control slipped away, replaced by the formidable presence of Crowley. Suddenly, he was not in the driver's seat of his body, but a mere passenger, a spectator to his own actions. Seated at the piano, Crowley's fingers took charge, producing compositions that were nothing short of terrifying. Each note struck by his hands echoed the horrors of the afterlife, drawing listeners into the depths of hell with its sinister rhythm and melancholic melodies. The music, despite its terror-inducing sounds, captivated audiences. Andy's fame grew, but this was not the fame he had desired. He was now a puppet, his strings pulled by the ghost of his idol. Andy was left helpless, trapped within his own mind as he witnessed Crowley perform his infernal symphony to the world. Each time the music played, he relived the horror and despair of the sounds he was forced to hear, the sounds inspired by the torment of the afterlife. As the years passed, Andy remained a captive in his own body, forced to listen to the nightmarish compositions over and over again. He became an instrument of Crowley's will, a living testament to the chilling reality of the afterlife. It all began on a crisp autumn day when I decided to take a walk through the park near my apartment. The leaves were changing and the colors were breathtaking. As I strolled along the path, I noticed a CD lying on a bench, its reflective surface glinting in the sunlight. Curiosity piqued. I picked it up and saw that it was a mixtape labeled The Lost Melody. I pocketed the CD, eager to listen to what I assumed was a forgotten collection of someone's favorite tunes. When I returned home, I dusted off my old CD player and popped in the disc. As the first track began, I was immediately captivated by the haunting melody that filled my ears. A blend of melancholy piano and mournful violin, accompanied by a voice so ethereal it seemed to transport me to another world. I felt a deep, inexplicable connection to the music, and I couldn't stop listening. The next day, I tried to find more information about the song online, but no matter how hard I searched, I couldn't find any trace of it. It was as if it didn't exist. Desperate to share the mesmerizing melody with others, I invited a few friends over and played the song for them. But when the music played, to my shock and disbelief, none of them heard anything. They stared at me, puzzled, as I raved about the exquisite beauty of the music. One of them even suggested that I was playing a prank on them. I was dumbfounded. How could they not hear what was so clear to me? The days turned into weeks, and my obsession with the song only grew. I listened to it at every waking moment, convinced that if I could just find the right person, they would hear it too. I played it for coworkers, acquaintances, even strangers on the street. But no one could hear the elusive melody. I began to question my own sanity. Was I losing my mind? How could something so real and profound be heard by only me? As the weeks turned into months, the melody began to consume me. The dulcet tones that were once soothing now only served to remind me of my own torment. Unable to sleep, unable to eat, I was becoming a shell of my former self. I would look into the mirror and barely recognize the hollow-eyed reflection staring back at me. One morning, I made the difficult decision. With a heavy heart, I pulled the CD from the player, its surface still as shiny as the day I found it. I gripped the edge tightly, the once smooth surface now biting into my palm. My fingers trembled as I bent it, the cracking sound echoing ominously through the room. I watched as the fractured pieces fell onto the floor, the last physical remnant of the melody, gone. That night, I went to bed hoping for the peace that had been eluding me for months. But as I lay there, eyes closed in the darkness, the familiar melody began to play again, even clearer than before. I shot up, my heart pounding. I scanned my room, but there was no source for the sound. It was inside my head, endless, looping. I tried to plug my ears to drown it out with other music, with the hum of the TV. But nothing could mask the haunting tune. Sleep had become an elusive luxury, one that I could only indulge in when exhaustion overcame my torment. It was during one of these rare moments of reprieve that I dreamt of a solution. In my dream, I saw myself meticulously crafting the melody, encoding each note onto a blank CD. Somehow I knew that the music would stop when that CD was played by another person. When I woke up, the dream seemed so real, so vivid, like a command sent to me from beyond, that I felt compelled to act on it. It was a desperate idea born of a desperate mind, but it was the only glimmer of hope I had left. Perhaps, I thought, if I could pass on the melody, maybe it would release me from its relentless hold. I took to my keyboard, spending hours trying to perfect the notes, the rhythm, and the timing. I captured the melody as best as I could, pouring all my desperation and longing into it. The days blurred together as I worked, every spare moment dedicated to this endeavor. Finally, after countless iterations, I had something that mirrored the haunting beauty of the lost melody. I put it onto a CD, creating a new mixtape with my rendition of the song. I felt a strange sense of satisfaction, a momentary relief. I left the apartment with the newly minted CD in hand. I walked to the park, to the very same bench where I had discovered the original. Carefully, I placed the CD on the bench. The deed was done. My mind echoed with a blend of conflicting emotions: relief, dread, hope, guilt. Then I saw him, a man disheveled, weary, perhaps seeking solace in the solitude of the park, just as I had done months before. He walked with a slow gait, his eyes falling upon the glinting CD on the bench. With a moment's hesitation, he picked it up, scrutinizing the disc. He seemed curious, possibly intrigued by the unexpected find. As I watched the man pocket the CD and walk away, an overwhelming wave of relief washed over me. I had done it. The CD, the melody, it was no longer my burden. But as the man's figure faded into the distance, a sense of profound sorrow settled in. If the message of my dream was to be believed, then I will be freed of the constant sound of the melody, once this unsuspecting soul plays the CD. But the guilt of what I had done weighed heavy on me. As I was walking away from the park, looking to resume my life, I was left wondering if the melody would truly cease when the stranger played the CD. Or will it simply go on as it had always done?